we should I just briefly address the Passover, right? Because this is kind of outside the Levitical sacrificial system, and Jesus is described as the Passover lamb. Why is this not penal substitutionary?
It's very, very, that section's long for a reason. So it's like we fixate on, they're having a meal, all right? They need to kill the lamb. It's a meal. So the function of it's not the death of the lamb. It's not even just the blood of the lamb. So I go through the closest analogy to what's going on with the blood on the doorpost and what's involved with the hyssop is to decontaminating a house from lepra. So not just people can get lepra, and it's not Hansen's disease, it's not leprosy today. It's more like eczema and psoriasis, or things that make your skin flaky white. A variety of like what we would probably consider minor skin conditions. Anyways, there's also stuff that it could pollute garments and homes, and it's still called lepra. But the coloration, whatever. But what it designates is lepra. And so the rituals there of purging the house from that when there's been the contamination of lepra, that's what the Passover blood manipulation looks like the most. Like, so if we need to figure out, right, the way history or exegesis proceeds. If you have something that's like a one-off, you're still trying to look for how close, like where we need interpretive helps, like what's going on here. So it's not the death of the lamb. It is the blood mixed with hyssop posted in a certain way on the door frame. It's that whole thing along with all the other components of the meal. It's the whole event that will cause the destroyer to see it. It's visible to see it and pass over. Well, actually, I go into it's protect. There's protection, and so it's an apotropaic function, which is more like a preventative. So it's a preventative function, and there is some. I tried to stay as much with like final form of the text and canonical form and stuff, because we're dealing with, again, New Testament reception of these things and applying it to Jesus. But it seems likely that what became in Leviticus, was it 13 or 14? I think it might be 14. Wherever the house one is, it's one of those. That it might have been, as it gets incorporated into the Torah, it's a after the fact, like final kind of fumigation of a house. But it seems like it might have had, and the Passover then is a link. It might have also had rituals like that, an apotropaic function, a preventative function. You do this ahead of time to stave off what is protective. It's a protective thing. Now, if any one of those elements though doesn't happen, the firstborn still liable in the first instance of what's going on of the historical Exodus. But it's not singularly focused on you killed this lamb for a meal. Anything in that whole, you don't do celebrate the Passover appropriately with the right herbs, etc., and all the components, eating it within that time frame, all that, then the firstborn's in jeopardy. But it's not like, so it's taking this ritual as a whole. The other thing is that historical Exodus was not a sacrifice. There's no altar. There's no burning of portions to God. There's no priest. And this is why in the first one, they're supposed to roast it. Roasting is a big no-no for sacrificial meat. That only direct fire on the altar. That's God's portion. That's what distinguishes it. Sacrificial meat needs to be boiled for the humans to eat. You can't have it touching fire directly.
And the fact that they're eating it, as you said before, any sacrifice that is eaten is by definition it's not atoning.
Yeah. And so that first one, I mean, it's not a sacrifice, and it's proleptic. It's we're about to be delivered, but let's celebrate it in advance. So it's a deliverance thing, ritual, and a protective. It's an apotropaic. It's a protective thing. So when it comes to the firstborn, though, the claim in the rest of Torah is because of the Passover, God has a right and a claim on the firstborn. And people just take that and run with it and say it's because it's substitutionary, whatever. Instead of looking at how the Torah itself defines what does God's right to the firstborn look like? What is going how does this play out? And so what I show is one, subsequent Passovers, when they are sacrifices and incorporated into the liturgical calendar, so you have the altar, etc., and you're doing it that way. Again, no kippur, none of that's mentioned. And the firstborn's life is not threatened from with subsequent Passovers. They're not thanking God as a Thanksgiving offering, a subset of the well-being offering. They're not saying, "Oh, yay, you spared our firstborn year after year." But the right to the firstborn is played out, and they are. See, it's God's rights to the firstborn of like everything, by the way, not just humans. But what's funny is, so you have like a donkey or whatever, you redeem that with a lamb, but you cannot redeem. So you can't offer a donkey. So instead you offer a lamb in its place. So what goes to God, it doesn't mean that it all gets incinerated on the altar. So there's also some scholars that are like, this is Israel child sacrifice. Like they used to sacrifice their firstborns or something, and this is the way to get out of it. No, because when humans go to God, they become permanent sanctuary workers. Samuel. And then this firstborn episode in the Torah. So instead of the firstborns going to serve the sanctuary, God substitutes. Here's where substitution comes in: the Levites. The Levites take the place of each family's firstborn to be dedicated sanctuary workers. Subsequent firstborns, like there's a mismatch in the initial counting of the math. So then there's a ransom, an exchange, not a ransom from death. Like that's what people. Ransom isn't always death. It just means it's this thing in exchange for some situation. And the situation is being a lifelong temple worker, sanctuary worker. So in substitution for your manpower, as it were, you offer a monetary ransom to like basically pay for your work that you would have been doing. So does that, like, the substitution happens with the Levites? The lambs cannot redeem human firstborns. Only animals that are ineligible to be sacrificed does a lamb feature in the firstborn redemption process. So if Passover really was a substitutionary death for the firstborn and has established God's right of all firstborns, human, animal, then wouldn't the lamb be the most obvious substitution way of redeeming a human firstborn? Yeah, but that's exactly what you don't find. That's exactly what is prohibited. The lamb's only substitute for firstborn of animals that cannot be sacrificed. Human firstborns were substituted by the Levites, and subsequent ones are then redeemed by a monetary gift to the sanctuary.
Okay.
So I think in terms of our like seeding it going forward, like just making that negative argument about it's not a substitutionary death, and what happens with the firstborn, I think confirms that is the way Passover was not understood to be, the means by which you substitute the death of the firstborn, however justified or unjustified or random or whatever. It's just not, it doesn't function that way in the narrative. So
it still seems that, that the destroyer going through and killing, he would go in, kill the firstborn of every house that didn't have the blood that's a result of a dead animal. Maybe substitution isn't the totality of what's going on, but isn't that a kind of substitution?
The other, like, what if there's combined families? Like, as I said, it's like, hey, you can team up. So one covers multiple. Like, it's not a one-to-one thing. It's not just like they're not nuclear families. That's another, like, it's the house. It's the protecting the house.
Sure.
It's not. The blood is affecting the edifice, not the person. And that's just one of the consequences of failing to go through. Like, this is part of a kind of reap what you sow. So Egyptians took firstborns, or the males and all, of Israelite houses. Now they're firstborn males. So not just firstborn, but any male, the Egyptians were taking. But I see it like as more, the reason that is the consequence, I think, is more tied into the like reap what you sow kind of mentality from the Egyptian oppression. But it is offering protection it's like you're in the safe house. And as I say, like things that then, if let's say there's a fine for doing something, the fine's not substituting for whatever it is that you did. It's just that is the consequence of failing to go through all these things. And so it's like collapsing the consequence with the cause and effect of before, I think is just unjustified. Because for one, the reasons I said about, well, then you would see this, if that was really the point, then that is what would be repeated in the subsequent Passover celebrations. Like that would, in relation to the firstborn in particular, but it's not. So that to me is pretty big evidence that in the reception of this meal, of this event in Israel's subsequent history and textual tradition, it did not see this thing as an exchange of the firstborn going forward. That was just one of the consequences of protection. The other thing is that the reception history just of the Passover in general. I'm not aware in this of Jewish interpretations of saying the Passover is a substitutionary death exchange for the firstborns and going on. Like that's just not on their radar. It's not like we don't see this interpretation attested.